Turn, if you would, to 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 13. Now, I'm going to disprove for you a doctrine that's a false doctrine taught by the Roman Catholic Church. That doctrine is called original sin. Put up your hand if you've heard that term before. Original sin. Now, the Catholics teach something called original sin, which teaches that babies who have not been baptized will go to hell. Isn't that terrible? I mean, they think that a newborn baby, they think if my baby died right now, because it was not baptized by the Catholics, will go to hell, but it doesn't go to the deep part of hell. Catholics have all kinds of strange beliefs about hell. They believe that that child will never go to heaven, a baby who dies, unborn or newborn. If it hasn't been baptized, it won't go to heaven. They believe that it goes to a place called limbo. Now, limbo is a place that's in hell. It's not real, okay? Don't get me wrong. I'm teaching you what the Catholics teach. Limbo is the coolest spot in hell, according to the Catholics. Okay. Now, that's kind of silly in and of itself, isn't it? But there's limbo, and it's actually cooler than purgatory, believe it or not. Okay? Now, it's still warm. It's still hot. You don't want to be there. And it's dark, and it's miserable, but it's not as bad as a place like hell. It's more like heck. Okay? So there's limbo, and there's purgatory, and then they have the different degrees of hell. They have all tons of different degrees of how hot it is and how bad it is in hell. And then they believe that a baby who's not been baptized will never go to heaven. It will spend eternity in limbo. Isn't that terrible? Now, the Pope, 2 weeks ago, that's traditional Catholic doctrine for, over 1,000 years. The Pope, a few weeks ago, has changed that, because he's allowed to change his religion whenever he wants, and they change it frequently. I mean, Catholicism changes all the time. It's changed so many times since it began. Now he's saying, maybe they'll go to heaven. Okay, that's what he said. He didn't say they will or that they won't, but he's saying, well, maybe they do. Whereas Catholicism has always taught, no, they cannot go to heaven without being baptized, period, no exceptions. Well, maybe. Isn't that so ridiculous? How would you like to be looking up to a spiritual leader that preaches you, maybe you'll go to heaven, maybe your kids will go to heaven, whatever, we'll see. And so I don't know if did anybody see that in the paper besides me? Put up your hand if you did. But other people had mentioned it to me. It was a big deal because people that I talked to on the phone in other states said to me, hey, did you hear the Pope changed what he believed about, babies not going to limbo? Now they might make it, Well, let's see what the Bible says. Look at 2 Samuel chapter 12. The Bible reads in verse 13, and David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. This is when David committed adultery with Bathsheba and killed her husband Uriah. 2 Samuel 12:13, and David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said unto David, the Lord also hath put away thy sin. Thou shalt not die. Howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. And Nathan departed unto his house, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. David therefore besought God for the child. And David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth. But he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. So for a week long here, when this newborn baby that's born, that God said to punish you, this child is going to die. And so he got on his face before God. He's praying. He's begging God. He's not eating any food. He's fasting. He's refusing to be comforted. In verse number 18 it says, and it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. And the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, is the child dead? And they said, he is dead. Then David arose from the earth, and washed and anointed himself, and changed his apparel, and came into the house of the Lord, and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. Then said his servants unto him, what thing is this that thou hast done? Thou didst fast and weep for the child while it was alive, but when the child was dead, thou didst rise and eat bread. And he said, while the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept. For I said, who can tell whether God will be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me.